Hi there, everyone. It's Stephen. In this video, we're going to have our second session going through questions on the basic algebra section of your GED. Just a reminder before we get started, if you look above my video, you'll see little tile cards for each chapter that'll help you navigate through the video. All right, let's get started. Evaluate the expression for b equals 3. And then they give us a fraction with the top of the fraction showing 12 plus 3b, the bottom of the fraction showing b. Evaluate is another word for solve. So in this question, we will actually have an answer, a number answer, as we can see from our multiple choices. But if it was a fill in the blank, you know that evaluate means that you're going to have an answer that you're going to type in. So for this question, what we're going to be doing is looking for all the places where that letter B shows up in the fraction and changing it to the number 3 and then solving it. So on the top of the fraction, we have 12 plus 3b. So we're going to change that to 12 plus 3 times 3. Because when 3 and b are next to each other, that means multiplication in the algebra language. Big fraction bar, and then the number 3 on the bottom. Now, just as a quick reminder, with fractions, even though they're not shown, the top of the fraction is always considered to be in parentheses or grouped together. So we want to do everything on that top first before we complete the fraction and do the division. So 3 times 3 is 9, and then plus 12 is 21. So that gives us 21 on the top of the fraction. The fraction line itself means division. And 3, there's nothing to do on the bottom there. So really it just comes down to 21 divided by 3, which is 7. And that's our final answer. Lynn is able to save up $75 each week to put aside for a vacation. If she needs at least $975 to go on vacation, which of the following represents the number of weeks, comma, W, that Lynn will have to save before she can go on vacation? So if she needs to save at least $975, to me that means that she needs to save $975 exactly, so she could be equal to 975, or she could save more than 975. So what we do is instead of writing that as two statements, we put it together as a single statement using this one single symbol, greater than or equal to. Okay, so if she needs to save at least $975, how many weeks will it take for her to save that amount of money if each week she's saving $75? So what we would do in this case is division. We would take our total amount and divide it by the 75, and our answer will be how many weeks then it takes for 75 to get all the way up to 975. So that's what I'm going to do. 975 divided by 75 is 13. So she needs to save then for at least 13 weeks, which is answer choice B. Tejas took his family to a college football game. He spent $85 on food and drinks for everyone. He spent 4 times as much on food as he did on drinks. How much did Tejas spend on drinks? Okay, so we have a total amount of money here, which is split into food and drinks. And we don't know exactly how much money he spent on either of them yet. But we do know that he spent 4 times as much on the food as he did on drinks. So that means that he spent more money on food than he did on drinks. So at least we know that the food number has got to be bigger than the drinks number. I'm going to use an inequality symbol to show that. So the food number should be bigger, and it should be 4 times bigger than the drinks number. Now in this question, we do have multiple choices. So as a testing strategy, we could look at our answer choices and try them out until we get an answer choice that works. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to do that with answer choice A. I don't know if this is correct or not. I'm just picking the very first one. If 17 was the correct answer, then that means that he spent $17 on drinks and 17 times 4 times as much on food, $68. And then if we add 68 and 17, let's see what we get. 85. And it just so happens that that is 85. That's exactly how much he spent on food. So that means 17 is the correct answer here. Now, what if this was a fill in the blank question? So we don't know how much money he spent on drinks, but we do know that he spent 4 times as much on food. And if we add those things together, it should come out to be 85 total dollars. 1D plus 4D is equal to 5D. Those are like terms. And 5D equals 85. That means 5 times some number equals 85. Well, if we want to figure out what that number is, we can think in terms of opposites. Okay, so the 5 is being multiplied by the letter D, but in this equation, if we wanted to shift it over to the other side, we can do the opposite of multiplying by 5, which is dividing by 5. And that will basically move this 5 over. 85 divided by 5 is equal to 17, which is our answer. So that's just another way of getting the answer. What is the value of, and then we have a big fraction where the top of the fraction says x to the third power minus 2 times x minus 5, and then the bottom of the fraction is x to the third power plus 9. So what is the value of all of that if x is equal to -2? So similar to the very first question we saw in the video, we're just going to be changing the letter x to the number -2 every time it shows up and then solving. And just like the very first question, as a reminder, we're going to want to do everything on the top of the fraction first, and then we're going to want to do everything on the bottom of the fraction second. You have to imagine the top and the bottom as having grouping symbols or parentheses around everything on the top and the bottom. And then we're going to save the division to the very end. So let's go ahead and get started on this. Okay, so the very first part is x to the third power. Now, -2 to the third power just means -2 times -2 times -2. And I'm using a little dot there in between the numbers to show multiplication. Now, that's something you can put in your calculator, but that's ultimately just going to come out to be -8. Then we want to do -2 times -2. Now that's equal to +4, so I'm going to put +4 to show that part of the answer. And then the final number on the top is -5 or -5. Now on the bottom of the fraction, we can go ahead and start knocking that out. -2 to the third power, once again, is -8 because we already did that on the top. So -8 plus 9. Okay, now the top and the bottom are still grouped together in parentheses, so I'll put those in just as a reminder. And now let's just do the top part first and the bottom part second, and then we'll divide and get our answer. -8 plus 4 is equal to -4, and -4 minus 5 is equal to -9. On the bottom of the fraction, -8 plus 9 is equal to +1. Anything divided by 1 is just itself. So -9 divided by 1 is equal to -9. Factor the following polynomial. And then it shows x to the second power minus 5x minus 14. We can check each answer by multiplying it to see which one of them does indeed equal the expression in the instructions. So if A is the correct answer, that means that if I did x minus 7 times the group x plus 2, then it should equal the expression shown in the instructions. Now, how do I actually go about multiplying these two groups of numbers together? Well, each group of numbers has 2 terms contained within the group. So the first group has the term x and the term minus 7. The second group has the term x and the term +2. Essentially, we need to multiply every combination of one term in the first group with one term in the second group. So my first multiplication is going to start with that first term in the first group, x, and I'm going to multiply that with the first term in the second group, which is also x. Now, we don't know what x is equal to, but we can, at the very least, put that together in a little bit more condensed way and say that x times x is equal to x to the second power. It's just a little bit shorter of a way, a more clean way of indicating x times x. Then we're going to do x times positive 2, which is just going to be 2x. Then we're going to go to the number negative 7 and times that with x, which is going to be minus 7x or negative 7x. And finally, we're going to go from negative 7 to positive 2, negative 14. And there we have all four combinations. Now we have an expression with no parentheses too. And it just so happens that the two terms in the middle are perfect matches. One of them is a positive 2x, one of them is minus 7x, but they both have a single x and no visible exponent, meaning it's to the first power. 2 minus 7 is negative 5. So I put minus 5x, and then I bring down x squared and minus 14. It just so happens that that matches our answer. So A is the correct answer. All right, evaluate e to the third power plus f to the second power plus 2 times g to the second power minus f plus 2 times e. If e is equal to negative 2, f is equal to 3, and g is equal to negative 3. All right, well, the hardest thing about this question is just navigating all of that really abstract looking algebra language. So we really just got to take it one piece at a time, perform all the operations, and we should be okay. So e to the third power is negative 2 to the third power, which comes out to be negative 8. F to the second power means 3 to the second power, which is 9. 2 times g to the second power, g is negative 3, and we do have to do the exponent first here and then multiply by 2. Negative 3 to the second power is just 9, and then we times that by 2, and we get 18. Minus f. F is positive 3, so we want to minus that number. And then the last one is we want to do plus 2 times e. Well, e is equal to negative 2, so when we multiply negative 2 times 2, we get negative 4. So rather than putting plus negative 4, I'm just going to write minus 4. And now I have all of it ready to go. I just need to add and subtract these numbers to get my final answer. We get positive 12 as a result. So our answer here is answer choice C. A certain car seat is rated for a child between the weights of 20 and 65 pounds. Which of the following inequalities represents all the weights of children that are allowed to use that car seat? Okay, so rated just means that it's safe for all children who are 20 pounds, between 20 pounds and 65 pounds. But it also includes the 20 exactly and 65 exactly. And when we look at our multiple choice answers, we can see that they're using the inequality symbols that we saw earlier in this video. However, they're not writing two separate statements. I mean, what I mean by that is they're not writing a statement which says the weight of the children has to be less than or equal to 65 and the weight of the children have to be greater than or equal to 20. Instead, what they're doing is they're combining that statement into a single line, which is why that letter W, I guess they're using W instead of X, is kind of like sandwiched in between those two bounds, those two limits. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for the one that starts off or that contains that fact right there and see if that helps me narrow down my answer choices. And I see that down here on letter D. Now they're using the letter W again, but you can see that right there in D. And that's actually the only place where that fact shows up out of any of these other answer choices. As you can see, all those are not correct. So that means the answer choice here is D. W is greater than or equal to 20. You almost have to read it right to left to make sense of that part of it. Consider the following equation. 1.5 times x minus 1.25 is equal to 5.5. Which of the following is the solution to the equation? And they give us four possibilities. What this means is that there's only one number that will make this equation true. There's only one number that we could put for x that will make that equation true, and that's what we're trying to identify. Now, sometimes with equations, you can look at the information they give you and kind of work your way through the answer without doing much math work on paper. However, in this one, it's kind of difficult to figure out what number we need to multiply by 1.5 and then take away 1.25 from that answer to get 5.5. That's a lot of math work to do in your head. Instead, we're going to take a more systematic approach. So that approach involves the following goal. We want to have x, the letter x, totally by itself on one side of that equal sign, and on the other side, our answer is going to be shown. In fact, we can see what our goal is by looking at our answer choices over here. You can see exactly what I mean there. Like, we want to have x equals something. Now, at the moment, there are two numbers that are preventing x from being by itself. There is a 1.5 that is being multiplied to x, and there is a 1.25 that is being subtracted from the term that has x in it. So both of those numbers we need to move over across the equal sign to the other side of the equation, thereby leaving x by itself. So let's see how that plays out. The first number we're going to move is the easiest, most flexible number, which is the number that's being added or subtracted. In this case, it's being subtracted. So negative 1.25 or 1.25 is being subtracted. When we move that over to the other side, it's going to change from being subtracted to being added. So I can cross off negative 1.25 over there because I've moved it over. And then I can pull out a calculator and do that addition, 5.5 plus 1.25, 6.75. And we get 1.5 times x is now equal to 6.75. So now we want to move the 1.5 over to the right side of the equal sign. And the 1.5 is a little bit more attached to the x. It's attached through multiplication, though. So 1.5 is being multiplied to x. It's a multiplication number. That means that when we move it over to the right side of the equal sign, it's going to turn into a division number, because division is the opposite of multiplication. So we're going to turn this into a division number, and we're going to put it at the very end and do 6.75 divided by 1.5. Pull out the calculator, that's equal to 4.5. So that means that the only number that will make this original equation true is 4.5, and that is answer choice C. Evaluate the expression for x is equal to negative 2. And then they give us an expression that has a fraction to begin with, 10 over x minus x. So I almost started saying it right there because we're just going to change the x to negative 2. So the first part is 10 over negative 2, which means 10 divided by negative 2, which is equal to negative 5. So I'm just going to go ahead and write that part of the answer down. Now, for the second part of this expression, the minus x part, we do need to be extra careful because the x is being subtracted, but the letter x itself is equal to a negative 2. So really, we have two minus signs that are kind of like right next to each other. We have a subtraction because x is being subtracted, and then x itself is a subtraction number. So we're subtracting a subtraction number. We're subtracting a negative. And in that case, what it means or what happens is it ultimately flips to becoming a positive. So if you can think of like a coin where heads is positive and tails is negative. And the minus sign means that we're kind of like flipping it from one side to the other. So if we have two minus signs, it's almost like we flipped it twice and it's back to heads. So really, it just means plus 2. Therefore, negative 5 plus 2 is equal to negative 3. All right, well, I hope this video was helpful for you, and please continue to reach out with any feedback, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. See you in the next video.